Here's why you should only use 20% of less of your income on rent. Don't over prioritize rent or where you're going to live and the neighborhoods that you're going to live. Here is 6 reasons why you should not. The first thing is rent is a fixed cost. It is a fixed cost. It is always going to be something you have to pay for. In the costs that you already have, there are costs that are variable that you may or may not pay. Subscriptions like internet and Netflix and things like that, entertainment, you may opt or not opt to. When you're in a tight financial situation, if you're living a husband and wife, one of you loses a job and you want to live on 50% of the income, you want to be able to pay your rent. So don't have to pay your rent at the rates Kenyans are paying, because most Kenyans are paying 47% or more of their income in taxes, according to a study by a university in Kenya. That more than 47%, more Kenyans are paying 47% or more of their income in rent. So it's a fixed cost. Income can change, so the fixed cost needs to be low as a percentage of your income. So if your income is affected significantly, you can still maintain living in that house. You do not want a lot of changes, because if you're paying 47% of your income towards rent and your income goes down by 50%, you cannot survive on 3% on eating and all these other expenses. So you will have to move houses. But if it is 20% or less, you can actually be able to still live in the same place despite earning half of the incomes that you were earning before. Because it is a fixed cost, fix it a little bit lower. If you have fixed costs, total fixed cost, food and things that you have to have pegged at more than 60%, my friend, you're on the red. You can easily slide into poverty, abject fear, and a lot of problems that come with less income or problems in earning your income. Especially if you're a businessman, always have your rents much lower. Don't have fixed costs that are going to drive you up the wall in thinking you're constantly stressed, because it is a fixed asset and it is taking a big percent of your income. Be real reasonable. 20% of lower in rent is actually very reasonable. The other thing that people don't talk about is rent is affected very much by the prevailing economic conditions. So when the inflation goes up, the first person that is going to add the money that you pay them is your landlord. They're going to add the rent faster than you think. In fact, the prevailing inflation rate may be 5% and they may increase your rent by 8% or 10%. It is affected a lot more. And so if you can do nothing about prevailing economic conditions, but you can do something about the rate or the amount that you're paying towards rent as a percentage of your income, if it is low and it is moved, say, from 20% to say 25%, it is less of a concern for you and less of a pressure for you, because it is already low as a percentage of your income. But if it is 47% and your landlord increases by 10% and it goes to 53% or more, you are affected directly. So ensure that you're not affected directly, because it is one of the costs that is easily changed and easily affected by prevailing economic conditions. Even when your landlord is added tax, they add that amount to you. So it affects you directly and immediately. So ensure that you are not put in a fix because of prevailing economic conditions. The other thing is, it is less pressure on trying to keep up with the neighbors. Because remember, if Kenyans are paying 47% of their income in rent, and you as a unique Kenya are paying less than 20%, meaning that the people that you will live in the neighborhood will never have you put on pressure, because they are struggling to pay their rents, and while you are not struggling, can be able to save and invest, because even if their life changes significantly, it cannot really outweigh you. So you have less pressure on trying to keep up with the Joneses, keep up with your neighbors. They will probably never have a car that is significantly better than yours. So you will always be at par and always never feel the pressure. Of course, I always advise people not to feel the pressure of trying to keep up with people, but it will be less pressure because they will be making much less strides than you are doing, because your percentage is a lot lower. When they are outliving their income and living beyond their means, you are living below your means and can be able to adjust a lot easier. The other thing is living expenses are actually affected by the location you live. If you live in a fancy neighborhoods, food is going to be expensive. So the mama mboga or the lady who sells vegetables is going to charge a little bit more, a premium, because the people in this neighborhood can afford it. So your grocery bill goes up. Then the other coincidental expenses also go up. Even bread and milk is more expensive in a fancy neighborhood. So if you live in a fancy neighborhood, you're paying a big percentage of your income in rent, your expenses are hiked up because the neighborhood is fancier than you would actually need to afford, then your other expenses also go down. The other thing, of course, is even your school fees for your children goes up, because if you live in Kileleshwa, so if you earn the same amount of money with a colleague, they live in Kileleshwa, you live in Kino, for example, one is almost double the lifestyle of the other, then even your education expenses are going to be even more expensive. The house in Kino might be a lot cheaper than the rent. The education in Kino might be a lot cheaper than the education in Kileleshwa. So again, even your education expenses go up. So you are tethering on the edge of poverty by living in Kileleshwa as opposed to Kino. Two individuals, two different locations, two different expenses. So education expenses are affected by your location. Then the other thing that you need to note, let us be practical. You spend less than 50% of your time in your house. So whether it is big, whether it is fancy, whether it is exotic, whether it has birds and trees and all these things, if you're going to spend 50% of the time not in your house, then you will not see all these things. And if 50% of that time that you are at home, you are asleep, you don't even see these things when you are sleeping. So if you have 24 hours in a day and you can only see your house for 4 hours, only 4 hours does not necessitate that you live in a fancy place. You will not even have time to look at the tiles and the trees and the birds and all these things. So even living in a less fancy place is still okay, because you don't spend as much time in this place. In fact, you rent a fancy place, it is only going to be used by the lady who washes your clothes, and your housemaid is going to enjoy your house even more, because remember, kids will go to school and they will leave the house. So you have this big house, you are paying all this rent, but you're only enjoying less than 10% of the time. So does it make sense? Does it make sense to put so much money into it? Then the other thing is social expectations are low. So if you live in a cheaper neighborhood, cheaper rent as a percentage of your income, your expectations are low, because people will always say, let us not invite him as a guest of honor in this harambe, in this social contribution, because he's living in a cheaper neighborhood. Probably he's not doing so well. The more people think that you're not doing so well, the better for you. Why? Because you have less social expectation. Even con men avoid you, because they are like, how much can we con from this person who lives in Kino vis-a-vis this person who lives in Kileleshwa? So even the people who are conning you are less. The people who are taking advantage of you financially are less, because again, people judge you by the neighborhood. So always look to surprise people. Don't always live the way people expect you to live. So live less, have less expectation, and your finances, your money will always remain in your pocket. Then the other thing is, eventually, you will build a house, you will move to your own place. Your expectations are low as regards to how much house do I need, because you are used to living in a smaller house, cheaper house, less in terms of square footage. So your expectation on building a house will be much less. And remember, if you're going to spend a lot of money that will be going towards investing, money that will be going towards securing the future finances of your family and that of your children, if a lot more is kept towards these investments that are going to grow wealth, then a lot more wealth is going to be created for your family. A lot more financial security will be there. So you manage the expectations of a big house, you build a smaller house, enjoy the same utility. So it's a house, it still covers you, you still enjoy the amenities of saying that you have a home. In fact, when people are called, let the landlords come and line up. You will line up, you have a house. Whether it is big or fancy or in a nice neighborhood, does not matter. You still line up like all other landlords, but you are incurring less in terms of loans, in terms of liabilities. You are growing your wealth more and you're becoming better financially. The biggest financial struggles with retirees in Kenya is when they take all their retirement benefits that they receive in lump sum and build a house, a big fancy house. They cannot be able to complete it. Maintaining it becomes expensive. Then they end up taking loans that are expensive, subprime loans that charge a lot more interest, and they end up struggling to pay, sometimes even losing the property and all the investment they have done in this property. So you are able to avoid this pressure because your expectations are lower, you build according to your financial wellness, and you're able to manage these expectations from the beginning. I hope you're learning, you're growing, and becoming better in your financial affairs. Remember, your online finance guy who talks about all things finance. Love me or hate me, I'm here to make your finances better. Thank you and enjoy your